Picture this. It's just past midnight on August 31st, 1997. Paris is glowing, the way it always does after dark. But inside a black Mercedes gliding along the River Seine, something is about to go horribly, horribly wrong. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving straight into the tragic night that literally stopped the world. We're stripping away the decades of tabloid noise to uncover the true story behind Diana, the facts, the timelines, and the incredible life of what was at the time the most famous woman on the planet.
Because what followed that night in Paris wasn't just this massive outpouring of global grief. No, it was the spark for decades of really intense suspicion. People everywhere were asking, was the loss of the world's most beloved royal simply a devastating, tragic accident? Or was she the victim of something far darker? To really wrap our heads around those questions, we have to rewind. We have to look at the life that actually led up to that midnight crash.
So here is our agenda for today. We're going to cover 1. The fairy tale facade, 2. Breaking royal conventions, 3. Anatomy of the crash, 4. Investigating the conspiracies, and finally 5. An enduring legacy. Let's just jump right in. Starting with Section 1, the fairy tale facade, a royal courtship.
You see, the so-called wedding of the century was actually built on a surprisingly shaky foundation. Born into a pretty difficult childhood, Diana had this totally unremarkable first meeting with Prince Charles back in 1977. But when they reconnected in 1980 at a country weekend, the monarchy absolutely fast-tracked her. I mean, she checked every single box they wanted. Young, aristocratic, totally inexperienced. Just think about this for a second. After a mere 13 dates, they were engaged in February 1981. And by July of that same year, 750 million people watched them tie the knot. But honestly, the fairy tale was already cracking before it even began.
Behind closed doors, Charles had been in and out of love with Camilla Parker Bowles for over a decade. And the night before the wedding, Diana actually discovered gifts that Camilla had sent Charles. When she confronted him about it, his reported response was just devastating. He told her, "I wasn't willing to be the only Prince of Wales who never had a mistress." Ouch. The marriage was essentially hollow from day one, and it plunged Diana into severe depression and really intense battles with bulimia during her first pregnancy.
Which brings us to Section 2, breaking royal conventions, and how she became the people's princess.
So how do you respond to that kind of intense private pain? Well, instead of hiding away, Diana basically went rogue, and in the best way possible. At a time of enormous societal stigma, she walked into hospitals and touched AIDS patients barehanded. She took William and Harry to homeless shelters because she wanted to show them real life, not just, polo matches and palaces. She completely took back her own narrative in that bombshell 1995 BBC interview, speaking totally candidly about the affairs and her mental health. And after the 1996 divorce, she dropped the formal HRH title entirely. She proved that true influence, it really doesn't need royal permission.
All right, moving to Section 3, Anatomy of the Crash, August 31st, 1997.
By the summer of '97, friends were reporting that Diana was finally genuinely happy. She was starting a brand new chapter with film producer Dodi Fayed. But that brings us right back to the chaos of August 31st. Trying to leave the Ritz Hotel in Paris, their security attempted to use a decoy car to shake the paparazzi, but the plan failed. Photographers on motorcycles spotted them slipping out the back. Their driver, Henry Paul, sped into the Pont de Lama tunnel at anywhere from 65 to 75 miles per hour. That is well over double the speed limit. The Mercedes clipped the wall, spun completely out of control, and slammed head-on into the tunnel's 13th support pillar.
The impact was catastrophic. Henri Paul and Dodi Fayed died instantly at the scene. Diana was critically hurt, but she was actually still breathing. Yet, and this is a detail that still shocks people to this day, it took nearly 2 hours for her to actually reach a hospital that was just 4 miles away. Despite doctors fighting desperately to save her, she passed away at 4 a.m.
Now for Section 4, investigating the conspiracies, rumors versus findings.
The initial French investigation in 1999 ruled it a tragic accident caused by a drunk, speeding driver. Simple as that. But the public? They flat out refused to buy it. And honestly, when you look at the anomalies, you can kind of see why. People were asking, if Henri Paul was 3 times over the legal alcohol limit, why did hotel security footage show him walking perfectly steadily? Why did literally none of the tunnel's security cameras capture the crash? Why on earth did an ambulance take 2 hours to travel 4 miles? And maybe most chillingly, what about that letter Diana supposedly wrote a year earlier predicting a staged car accident? Fueled by claims from Dodi's father about an MI6 assassination plot, the pressure for real answers just exploded. To settle these claims once and for all, British authorities launched Operation Paget in 2004. And let me tell you, this wasn't just some quick bureaucratic review. It became one of the most massive criminal investigations in British history. Over 3 years, investigators meticulously reviewed roughly 175 separate conspiracy claims. They interviewed hundreds of witnesses and completely re-examined the French forensic evidence from the ground up.
So when we actually weigh those rampant rumors against the official forensic facts, a very clear picture emerges. For years, theories swirled about MI6 involvement, blinding strobe devices going off in the tunnel, missing cameras, or even a royal plot to stop her from marrying into a Muslim family. But Operation Paget, along with a 2008 inquest jury, found absolutely zero evidence of a conspiracy. The official findings ruled it an unlawful killing, driven entirely by Henri Paul's extreme intoxication, reckless speed, and the relentless paparazzi chase. Medical tests definitively disproved the pregnancy rumors. And that haunting letter? It was ruled a tragic reflection of her very genuine emotional distress at the time, not actual proof of an elaborate plot.
Finally, Section 5, an enduring legacy. Looking beyond the mystery.
Because even with all those investigations, nearly 3 decades later, public opinion still remains divided on the crash. But her true story absolutely does not end in that tunnel in Paris. Just wrap your head around this number, 2.5 billion. 2.5 billion. That is the estimated global audience that tuned in to watch her funeral. It remains one of the largest television events in human history. Add to that the million people physically standing shoulder to shoulder, lining the streets of London. That isn't just a display of grief, that is a fundamental shift in global culture. Which really brings us to the core of our explainer today. Whatever you personally believe happened in Paris, Diana's impact as the people's princess was never truly about the way she died. It was always about how she chose to live. She broke the incredibly rigid rules of an ancient institution to show the world raw, unfiltered compassion. She sat with the sick, the marginalized, and the forgotten when literally no one else in her position would dare to do so. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Does the true story of Diana lie in the forensic details of a crashed Mercedes, or in the way she forever forced the monarchy, and honestly the rest of the world, to finally find its heart? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as